Welcome back to this live stream. So I am a little late today. I typically shoot for a 10 a.m. stream, but I had a client in my studio that actually went a little long, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna push this back and patiently put together the stream. And so instead of just like going up live and rushing it, I feel like the last couple of streams I've done have just been like throwing it up and just putting out whatever stream I could do. But today I slowed it down, so maybe I got to do 11 a.m. stream every day. But like today, I do have more clients coming in, so I'm gonna have to. Eventually, I can't go to like 3 hour stream. But anyways, today is all about. I put aside some TikToks that I think would be really good entrepreneurial things to kind of break down that could spike some good or start not spike start some good conversations about how to be an entrepreneur. Can you really learn viral TikToks? And so I figured I would, yeah, I would do this. But I want a reminder why I'm doing this live stream, because right now, obviously, I'm watching this. I got 0 viewers, which is totally fine. I'm doing this to learn how to be on camera. I am not good on camera as of right now. And I know I want to build my brand. I want to do this. I want to commit to this. So come along this journey with me. I need to stop saying so's and help me to do better. Because the first thing you could do is at least start. And that's what a lot of my mentors, a lot of people I even tell who are my clients who are trying to create content. I'm like, you just got to start. So I am in the trenches. I am starting with you all. All right. So stay tuned for future Friday streams. My goal is to stay at 10 a.m. Typically, I don't have any Friday morning shootings with my clients, but I did have one this morning. Anyways, intro's done. Think about it I'm an editor. Intro's complete. Let's move on to some of these TikToks that I think are really fascinating. So some of them you probably have seen if you're in this space. Some individuals you might recognize. I think Mark Cuban's on one of them, which if you're on Shark Tank, I think Kevin O'Leary. I love Shark Tank. So, but a lot of entrepreneur TikToks kind of pick and choose from Shark Tank a little bit. But I really wanted this to start a conversation because entrepreneurs struggle with a lot. I've learned this the hard way. And I think these TikToks do touch on some of these subjects. And whether I agree or disagree, I think it's at least good to discuss them. So let me set this up for you all. I'm going to jump into this, make sure the browser source is working here because I've had some streaming issues in the past. All right, seems to be working. Let's transition over this. Okay, so we're going to be watching some of these TikToks. All right, this is obviously my page, but again, you may recognize some people on here, you may not. Totally cool if you don't know anything because you're about to see it. All right, and you should be able to hear this. If you don't hear this, I'm going to be really disappointed because I tested everything. Okay, I think it should be. All right, first one's first. First, I want to watch this first one. I mean, you can kind of see it playing already. I'll introduce it for a second. I saw this and I was like, I'll understand why I made that sound. Let's just watch it.
I promise you, if you turned off your phone and you are not allowed to go on any Instagram, TikTok, or any shows or anything, and all you're allowed to do is just go do research on money, what it is, and how to make it, I guarantee you that with one day, you'll have more information and you'll be smarter than 99% of people. Because that's how low and how ignorant most people are. I promise you, if you turned off your phone and you are not...
Okay. One's enough. That's a lot. So, this TikTok. Let's talk about it. It's all about, when you look at entrepreneurship TikToks, okay, or social media content specifically, you got to know that there's stuff that can help motivate you and drive you to success and learn from and digest content that it's going to benefit you and actually like consume content in and around. You also got to understand when content is selling you, okay? This guy particularly, yeah, it's an interesting fact, whatever. But I watched it and I was like, what is this guy's brand about? Whatever. apparently he's all about drop shipping, okay, and selling a course about drop shipping. So I think you just gotta be really careful when you're consuming these entrepreneur TikToks, Reels, whatever they may be. You just gotta know when they're selling you and when they're not. This one particularly isn't selling you a ton. It's just about a phone. And I think it's actually very true. Talking about your phone, that you should be off it. Sure. You just got to know when a whole TikTok page is trying to sell you and when it's not. And it's okay to sell, because I got to sell. I got to sell content that's for my brand. I'm going to post a content that's selling to you. Come edit content with me. I've helped people grow their brands and create awesome video content through podcasts and live streams and all these other things. So I'm not saying don't create content that sells. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you're consuming specifically entrepreneurial content, make sure you know when is a sell and when it's not. Because if you don't know that classification, you're always going to be falling into these course traps and these pay for whatever things they're selling. You're much more vulnerable, which I guess if you're just in the space more, you can recognize it. Anyways, I just wanted to click on that. I thought that was just interesting. All right. So this one's the first one. This one's I don't know what this other one is. That's 82 million. I don't know what that is. That's not a part of today's stream. Mark Cuban is the first one. So let's watch it. Let's break it down.
What would be your biggest advice to an entrepreneur, somebody trying to start a business?
Well, first know your business, right? I think people will always stop me and say, well, I want to start a business, what should I do? And if you don't know, you're not ready. You've got to have something that you're good at. If you're going to do it, you got to be the best at it.
What would be your biggest advice to an entrepreneur, somebody trying to start a business?
Well, first know your business, right? I think people will always stop me and say, well, I want to start a business, what should I do? And if you don't know, you're not ready. You've got to have something that you're good at. If you're going to do it, you got to be the best at it.
What would be your biggest advice to a...
First things first, this is a good TikTok because I do think this actually benefits what you're trying to do. This isn't, obviously there's a link there, business talk official, whatever. It's their account pushing. They might sell something at the end of the road. But this specific TikTok is mainly beneficial and educational, which is really good. First thoughts. First of all, it's Chris Paul talking. I thought that was weird that he was talking to Mark Cuban because I don't think Chris Paul ever played for the Mavericks. I don't know. I'm not a big basketball person, so I could be very wrong. I just thought that was interesting. They're both in the NBA space. Anyways. You really got to master your business before it's a business. And I do agree with that. You got to know it up and down. You can't, obviously, if you're buying, that's a different conversation. If you're buying an existing business and trying to scale it, flip, but you're good at business flipping, you're good at building a business, that is your business. So that would be my argument if you're just going to buy existing ones and do whatever. Like, for me, my grassroots is video editing. So my first business that I'm starting is about video production and video editing and redistribution of content and stuff like that. So I have to master that. I can't just say, actually, I don't know. Well, yeah, you got to know your business in and out. I'm going all over the place with this one. I do think this is really good advice. If you don't know the ins and outs of your business, then it's not a business. You can't start it because you don't know the cost, you don't know the risk, you don't know the reward, you don't know all these things. And specifically the trade, you just got to be really good at your trade. Again, I can't scale a video business by myself without knowing how to video edit. So, that's the borderline. I think I honestly just think it's good baseline advice. There's something groundbreaking about this TikTok, and I agree with it. And again, I'm not as knowledgeable as Mark Cuban. I'm breaking it down myself. If I watch this, I'll be like, that's good. All right, let's watch this one.
Everyone wants to be like an entrepreneur on a beach in Thailand, living their best digital nomad life. Reality is it's the total fucking opposite. Yeah. You lose friends, certainly in my experience. Your family doesn't understand what you do. And in fact, for the most part, they'll try and talk you out of it until you get to a certain level of what they perceive to be success. And they'll be like, oh, I always knew you were going to do well. Exactly. And you can never switch off. Like, even when I'm like at home, lying in my bed, and it's like 1 o'clock at night because I've been working up until that point, I'm like, crap, I've got that thing to do. Or like, oh, what about that thing we were talking about with that client today? That's really interesting. And I have to like get up and like jot it down. And it's, you just cannot turn off. I'll be, with my friends and I'll just be talking about all this stuff and they'll just be looking at me like, everyone wants to be like an entrepreneur on a beach in Thailand.
Looking at you like, so I got a lot to say about this one. First of all, it's really hard to describe what you're going through as an entrepreneur to people who are not entrepreneurs, specifically your family. So the most common question I get when I get to family functions is, how's your business doing? And I'm always like, do you want the real answer or do you want like this, I don't know, everything's great face? Because everything is never super great as an entrepreneur. There's always things you could be doing. There's always more money to be made. There's always more clients and leads to be chasing. There's always more that you think in your brain that you could be doing more of. So it's never, it feels great because when you have a W-2 job, you finish your task and there's always like that closing that you can just exit your job and just leave and you just have that closure. As an entrepreneur, there's never that closure. I mean, maybe in a sense when you like sell a business or you accomplish something, but there's never fully a closure. So that part about this TikTok really makes sense. So I'm gonna watch it one more time because there's a couple other things that she touched on which were really interesting. So watch it one more time.
Everyone wants to be like an entrepreneur on a beach in Thailand, living their best digital nomad life. Reality is it's the total fucking opposite. Yeah. You lose.
First of all, that's very true, because when I think about being an entrepreneur, specifically before I became one, I thought you'd be very independent, which there's pros and cons to both these. There's two sides. I thought I'd be very independent. I'd be able to have my own schedule, be home when I want to be, live a good life. And really, you're not subject to a business, so to say, like a normal job would. You have your 9 to 5. You got to be available at these rates or these times. It's more or less, you almost have you're chained to the needs of what needs to be done, or you're chained to the task and opportunities that are always flowing through your brain that you can always go after. So yes, I feel like there's never an off time. I mean, like even times when I have such a hard time going home and turning it off because there's never really a turn off. And that's something I've really struggled with as a new entrepreneur. I don't know if anybody else has struggled with that. I try to debrief so on my drive home, I try to listen to a podcast or something that is so unassociated with building a business or anything business-like. It's more of consumption of a hobby or something like that. So I definitely think there's a struggle. There's a really hard time it's hard to close that structure.
Lose friends, certainly in my experience. Your family doesn't understand what you do. And in fact, for the most part, they'll try and talk you out of it until you get to a certain level of what they perceive to be success. And they'll be like, oh, I always knew you were going to do well.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can never...
Oh, yeah. Definitely agree with that point. That is... Again, if you go into a family function, right? Like, how's your business going? Or do you want the real answer? Do you want the everything's fine answer? It's really hard to be authentic about it because no one really truly understands unless they're in that space. Yeah, and so and if you are real about it, people think the world's ending, like you're about to go out of business. And I'm like, no, you could just have a rough month of profit margin. And that happens. That happens all the time. And that's okay to visibly be frustrated about that. It's like the same day of having a crappy work day where you're dealing with customer experience and customers just rip you a new one over and over and over again. It was a stressful day. Same thing with that. But when you say it's your business and it's having a hard time with that, people just think the worst. And I feel like that's been a common thing that I've dealt with. Yeah, it's just hard. So that's why actually, here's a big point. Actually, if you are an entrepreneur, right? If you are struggling to share what's going on, the hard time you're having balancing everything out and figuring out how to be present in all these other areas of life, but also have this huge weight on your shoulders of building a business, get community. Get people around you that truly understand what you're going through. I participate in a community group at my church that's all about business. And we just talked about how to be successful business people within the church, but also just as individuals and how to be successful. And it is so detrimental to my growth. I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't even think I would have a business if it weren't for going to this group. Not because they teach you just random things, just to know that you're not alone. And that's what originally is the root of why I started this channel and then my brand into be more of a fellowship like Lord of the Rings. We're building a fellowship of entrepreneurs to go on journeys and to be successful. That is why this clearly touches on that. So let's finish this one out. See what else she has to say.
Switch off. Like even when I'm like at home lying in my bed and it's like 1 o'clock at night because I've been working up until that point, I'm like, crap, I've got that thing to do. Or like, oh,
that happens all the time. I go to bed and I'm like, oh, I forgot to reach out to that client, or oh crap, I need to do that, or oh, that happens so much. And I don't know how to fix it. Does anybody know how to fix it? I don't.
about that thing we were talking about with that client today, that's really interesting, and I have to like get up and like jot it down, and it's, you just cannot turn off. I'll be, you know, with my friends and I'll just be talking about all this stuff and they'll just be looking at me like, everyone wants to be like an entrepreneur.
And that's the last thing. I think last night I was trying to tell one of my friends, I'm like, hey, he's like, how's things are going? He goes, I know it's challenging. And I try to explain some of these things, and it's just like silence. And I'm just like, they don't know how to really relate to that struggle. But I think it's not just entrepreneurs in this way too. I think it's all management or any leadership, or really when you have like you're bearing a weight of something, you can't really have that final closure again at the end of the workday. And Hoopenstein, yeah, I agree. A notebook by the nightstand, so you could just scribble. I actually have heard something similar, but instead of middle of the night, what they try to force themselves to do to get closure before they go to bed is they actually like visibly write everything out that's ever on their brain, right in a notebook that for the to-dos of tomorrow. So that creates that separation of like, I'm not gonna, even if something pops up, I'm not gonna think about it. But I do like that, even if like in the middle of the night you are thinking about something, I gotta jot it down, because that does help with closure in a sense. So we'll watch this last one. We'll see what you guys think. Up here, it's Kevin O'Leary. If you watch Shark Tank, he's entertaining.
Why don't you burn those? Why are you selling t-shirts? You can't make any money doing that.
I might. What are your sales for the shirts?
So I just released the shirts, co-parent, which is underwear. And so this year we've made $270,000.
First off, hold on, let me rewind it here. So I'll tell you right now, AI edited this. A person did not visibly edit this. This is AI. So when you look at these accounts right here, this is a pro tip if you're looking at like content management and stuff like that. This is a guy that literally is just going through entrepreneur, or a girl, going through entrepreneur content, submitting it to AI tools, and they're just cutting out shorts for them. And then that's how they become big things. I only describe that because I'm in this space and I like people to know like this is being done at a high rate by AI. So just be aware. It's also a big shout out to my company, because I rely on AI to help me find these things, but a human has to do the final touch on everything, which makes our content a little bit more efficient and have a little bit more perfection to it. What is it called? A perfecting touch. What's the term? I don't even know. Finishing touch. There it is. All right.
And so this year we've made $270,000
And how did you sell those?
on our website.
Your ask is $212,000 for 10%, correct?
Yeah.
Why wasn't it 200 or 225? 212.
You want to know the real answer to that question?
Yeah.
No, lie to us.
It's
That's
your
not a great
number,
answer.
I know it.
Lie to me.
No, it's because I couldn't say 200 without stuttering, so I had to find a number that I could say without stuttering. Because once I stutter, then the whole thing I'm gonna forget. So that's kind of why.
That's a great answer. You're an honest guy, man.
I don't lie. I'm sorry.
So who's running this company with you?
It's just me, myself, in my garage, just hanging out, you know, with my lawn chair. That's my setup.
I've been there.
Wow. It's a good time. My friends come over.
You're living the life.
I'm actually living it, like even being here. This is a great time.
Why don't you burn those?
So this is cool. I really enjoy this video because this is really the highs of why being an entrepreneur is so cool. He literally is living a life independent of not having to be restricted by a company telling him what to do, doing certain things. He's literally working on a project that he's passionate about, that he's building with his bare hands, and that he's wanting to build for a way future opportunities and success. That's really cool, and this is really inspiring. Also, because when he talked about his speech impediment, or that he didn't want to stutter and he would forget everything, I struggle with speaking. This is why I'm doing this live stream, so I really relate to that because I'm trying to be successful and I'm trying to be a really good communicator, and I have a really hard time talking on camera. Not so much because I just heard a really weird noise in my studio. It's not because I have a hard time talking to people and building relationships. Obviously, I have to be good at that. I had to be good at that to maintain clients. It's more or less communicating my thoughts when generating content is a really hard thing for me. And I don't like doing scripts because I talk so much against using scripts because I don't want everything to be scripted. And it's very authenticity is really important. And also in this video, it teaches authenticity about what he's going through. And he's just being real about it. And he's excited about it. I've had some really awful days with my company. But I love doing it because it's my company. And I feel like he showed that joy and that passion of excitement and commitment, but also fear of failure and busyness and all these things that come, baggage that comes with being an entrepreneur. I feel like this TikTok just showed all that, but also was very wholesome. And so I didn't really look up at where that t-shirt company is now. My wife and I watch Shark Tank, and we like to actually look at where the companies are today. And so I don't know. What's this t-shirt company name? Do you want me to look it up? What is it called? I showed it at the end. Maybe it was at the beginning. Let me see here.
Why don't you burn those? Why are you selling tea?
I might.
What are your sales?
So, yeah.
Why wasn't it 200?
Yeah.
No, lie to
It's
us.
your
200 without stuttering, so I had to find a number that I could say without stuttering. Because I'm sorry. I'm just hanging out, you know.
I've been there.
Wow. It's a good time. My friends come over.
You're living the life.
I'm actually living it, like even being here. This is a great time.
Why don't you burn those?
Anyways, I was going to look up and see if it's still alive. Anyways, that's all the TikToks I have that we were going to break down and watch. Hopefully you guys enjoyed a lot of the content that I talked about today. It just kind of touches the surface, a lot of these bigger things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I feel like they're on their own islands and they're doing their own thing. It's hard to relate with people who are not in this space, but in reality, I think getting people around you, again, a fellowship, just like Lord of the Rings, just like Frodo did, getting a fellowship around you is really beneficial. So please subscribe if you like these streams, if you connect to it a little bit, even just a little bit. Even if you're trying to communicate with like your spouse who is an entrepreneur, if I can help bridge or something like that, because actually talking to your spouse and how they get stressed out can be just hard. If I can just help be a part of that, subscribe. All I talk about here is how to survive being a new entrepreneur. So anybody that's didn't go to school maybe to be an entrepreneur or in business at all, because I didn't. I literally went to school to be in film and video production. I had no idea. I wanted to run essentially an agency. So get into the community. I want to see how everyone's doing because, we are all on our own islands trying to stay afloat. Again, thank you for watching. I think that is it for today. I actually have another recording here in my studio here in like 10 minutes, so I should probably rush to figure that out and get that ready. All right. Peace. After being a video editor and producer for almost 7 years, I finally decided to start my own business, XYZ Media. But then I quickly realized I have no idea how to start a business or even how to run one. Imposter syndrome started to kick in, and I felt like I was on a never-ending treadmill of things I had to understand and learn. But then I realized something. I began to compare this journey with an individual from one of my most beloved stories, Frodo Baggins. You're like, how in the world is this guy gonna learn how to be an entrepreneur? And surprisingly, Frodo's journey actually has some similarities. When the ring was first handed to Frodo, he thought he was only going to the next place, which was Rivendell. Little did he know he was going to carry it all the way to Mount Doom. On face value, it looks like a sprint. And once you get to the finish line, you're good. Instead, it's a marathon. And at every mile, you're questioning your very existence. So, what does Frodo do? He surrounds himself with a fellowship of people that are experienced and battle-hardened. This is where this channel comes in. One type of video you're going to see are interviews with other experienced individuals that have learned a thing or two about being an entrepreneur. These are the Gandalfs, the Aragorns, the Legolases, the Gimlis, entrepreneurs in all types of industries. And the other type of content are live streams, where I will be live every Friday at 10 a.m. Because Frodo also surrounded himself with his peers, Merry, Pippin, and yes, that beloved Samwise Gamgee. And that's all of you, new entrepreneurs and business owners trying to figure out how to survive. In these live streams, I'll share my struggles and challenges that I'm facing in my business, break down some of the latest news from the biggest brands, and lastly, so that you can all share what you're going through. Because we're in this together, my Samwise Gamgees. So get subscribed so you don't miss an interview or a live stream, so we can all go from a dreamer to a doer.